I am Camille Miller, the founder and executive director of the Natural Life Business Partnership. Thank you for joining us today, September 26th of 2018, and we are doing a member spotlight with David Stretanski. He is our regional director down in Monmouth County, New Jersey, and he joins us today as a representative of ASEA Cellular Health. Hi, David. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Camille. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. So I want to ask you, just to start off, if you could tell us a little bit about ASEA and your backstory in getting into health and wellness.
Sure. So as Camille mentioned, I'm a rep for the global expansion team for a health science company called ASEA Cellular Health. The company has developed natural resources that essentially help the body do what it's designed to do, which is to continuously repair and heal itself. And I started my career, so to speak, in a totally different area. I graduated from college 30 years ago as an electrical engineer, and I started an 18-year career in technology, really internet technology, communication across the internet, and really the background of the internet within the phone companies before the internet even existed. That's how I got started. And so even though that career was very rewarding, over time I led myself to health and fitness interests, and that led me into what I'm doing now. The backstory is that in high school, when I was a sophomore in high school, I hurt my back wrestling. And it was one of those cases where I was wrestling on it, then I would ice it and wrestle on ice, and it just became worse and worse. It healed short, compromised my posture, which led to muscle spasms, which led to medications and muscle relaxants and painkillers, which led to some digestive issues, which led to even more medications, and over time led to a skin condition, which led to some even nastier medications that really caused a lot of problems for me. Mm-hmm. And this all continued through my 20s, through college, and throughout my 20s. And then I really had no real improvement in my symptoms, and mostly just side effects. And things just continued to spiral to the point where at 30, I made a very big decision. I was lucky enough to be exposed to a very simple concept, and that diet actually has an effect on your health and health conditions that you might have. And I decided to change my diet overnight. And I deleted 5 things out of my diet overnight: sugar, alcohol, wheat, dairy, and red meat. And I've essentially never gone back to any of those over the past 22 years. And luckily, I was introduced to just a simple idea, and was reminded that, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and just expecting something to change. And so I decided to change it myself. And I became a student of essentially all things health, whether it was diet, lifestyle. I had a compromised posture, so mobility was a very big key for me to get moving again. I was introduced to a physical therapist program that helped me fix my posture and get me not only moving again, pain-free, but also get me running. And I also investigated all different modalities, from everything natural, holistic, alternative, chiropractic, traditional Chinese medicine, yoga. Essentially tried it all. At one point, my bookshelf looked like the health and wellness section at Barnes & Noble. And I probably had about 250 to 300 different audiobooks. And at that time, it was all cassettes. So I had the little cassette boxes. And I remember there's a whole string of them on the top of my bookshelf. And I was just a sponge for anything I could learn about diet, nutrition, lifestyle, personal development. And I was really focused on 2 things: my career and health, because I was really trying to heal myself. And so that continued throughout my 30s. And at 40, I made another really big decision, in that I enjoyed my tech work. It was very challenging, very rewarding, but I decided to quit my job and do something more important. But I wasn't quite sure what that was going to be at first. So I just decided to leave my job and to figure it out. And the first thing I did was I essentially went to school to learn how the physical therapist helped me fix my posture so I could get moving again, essentially get my body realigned so that my body was functional and that there wasn't so much stress on it, which alleviated my discomfort. The second thing I learned was to go and become an instructor in something I had learned about how to move more efficiently, both in walking and running. And the approach was to combine principles of Tai Chi, which you might find that might be a strange place, but principles of Tai Chi applied to movement, something called Chi running and Chi walking. It was put together by a gentleman who was a long distance runner. And at the same time, he was taking a Tai Chi class, and he realized that if he applied what he was learning in Tai Chi to running, he could get really efficient and reduce the chances of high stress and therefore injury, which helped him be more consistent. So I went off and did that. I became an instructor, was trained by the founder and the author of that. And I started a coaching mobility business, doing presentations, workshops, and private coaching all over the state and even into some neighboring states whenever I could. And that coaching business also had me practicing my own ability to move efficiently through long distances. And I started to run longer and longer distances. And I started to ask myself, well, how far can I run and how efficient can I be to limit any kind of recovery? So I started running marathons and ultra marathons. And for those who don't know, an ultra marathon is a distance anything longer than a marathon. Typically it's a 50K, which is 31 miles, or it's 50 miles, or even longer than that. I never went above 50 miles, but there are races that go farther than that, even multi-day races, all kinds of crazy things. So I continued to either become the best coach I could be. I continued to work on my running. And 4 years later, it's November of 2010, and I'm introduced to this health concept called cell signaling. And at the time, I had been studying all these ideas, all these different modalities for over 14 years, a complete sponge of information, and I'd never heard of this. And interestingly enough, cell signaling is all about how the body communicates well, how its internet in its body communicates, which was, the combination of my previous work in technology and my passion for learning about health. And I realized, in learning about this, that not many others had heard about this either, except for some researchers who were identifying how important this was to the body, and a health science company called ASEA, which is now called ASEA Cellular Health. And the way I was introduced to it was a friend of mine introduced it. We were at a group run at a local park here, and this gentleman, Peter, he's about 20 years older than I am. And he had this energy about him, this spring in his step in his run that day. There was just something different about him. I could see it in the way he was moving. As I was coaching people, I got really good at watching people. And I asked him, I said, hey, Peter, what's up with you? And in my head, I'm thinking, like, what's new? Like, what are you on kind of thing? Like, what have you changed? He said, well, I've tried this new resource. It's all about how the body communicates. And it's the fourth week, and this light switch just went on, and I feel great. And I said, really? Well, what is it? He said, well, it's all natural. It's completely native to the body. And it's the messaging or the signaling that every cell in the body uses to communicate within and between our cells to detect damage and activate the repair process, which includes athletic recovery, efficient use of nutrition and everything the body essentially does. And he said, this signaling is already in us. It's just depleted or out of balance. And that occurs because we age or we become stressed in some way. And he stressed that it was all natural. And I'm thinking, okay, this is communication within the body. It's all natural. It can't hurt me. And this sounds really interesting. This seems like this would take everything I've already learned and take it to another level. So I knew it wouldn't hurt me. And I wanted to start to use it. But what they didn't know at the time was that 10 days later, I was scheduled to go down to Maryland to run my A race of the year, my big race. It was a 50-mile ultramarathon. And typically 10 days before a big event, you don't change anything. You don't change if you eat out, you don't change, anything, because you've trained a long time and you don't want anything to interfere with that experience. So I knew it wouldn't hurt me, and I decided to give it a try. And it was a liquid that you ingest a couple ounces a day. And I was pretty in tune with what my body felt like, what running felt like, what day-to-day felt like. And I noticed that within a few days, it was the third night, the next morning, I woke up and I realized I didn't move. It was one of those sleeps where you wake up and you're like, wow, I don't think I moved, and I really needed that sleep. And I hadn't done that in years. I was always up, restless or up to the restroom. and I had a really great sleep. And I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what this is yet. I'm not sure why this is, but there's something different going on here. So I continued to use the resource over the next few days leading up to my event. I remember being in the hotel in Maryland, staring at a bottle of this liquid and going, okay, are you going to try this today before your big event? But I trusted it. I said, it's not going to hurt me. It may help me. And I ended up taking a little bit extra that morning. And in the race, I ended up dropping 43 minutes off of my time from the year before on the same course, which for a 50-mile race, that's roughly a minute a mile.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so this gets my attention very quickly, but it wasn't so much the time benefit. It was the recovery benefit, or almost the sensation that my body was recovering from what I was doing as I was doing it. Meaning I had been on that course the 2 prior years, 2008 and 2009. Here it is 2010. And this course feels very different to me because as I'm moving through the course, I'm not tightening up. My energy was good. My head was clear. I didn't need to fuel as much. And so I do the event. I'm moving around fine the next day. That evening, I think, the day after that, I think it was races on a Saturday. I think the following Monday, I did a short run and I'm like, yeah, I'm a little fatigued, but I feel really good. And so this has really got my attention. And so the first thing I did was I started to look into the science of what this is. There's a number of resources on the concept that is in all kinds of academic research. You can look up things on pubmed.gov. You can look at things on scholar.google. There's lots of information on this concept of cell signaling. And then there was some very specific information that said, how this is related to a lot of the things we do in order to stay healthy. And I realized that even though this helped me with my athletics, this is really a health product. This is really a product that can help with a lot of important things. And the first thing I thought was, I need to get this to my parents.
Can I let me just interject with a couple of questions because I've been writing them as you've been going. Then we'll get back to your parents. So when you started taking it, just for comparison, when you're in a race of that level, how long would recovery normally be? What is that like? If you didn't have this, what is?
I would have typically the next day I would be very fatigued. And then the second day I'd get what's called delayed onset muscle soreness, meaning the sort of everything builds up to the point where you start to feel it more. It's there's a little bit of a lag there. So typically 2 days after, I would be very, very tight and I would not be able to move as well. I would be feeling it typically in my quads is where I normally feel it on this particular course. There's some hilly trails in there. And so it would usually take me 4 to 5 days to feel like I could and I should go for a short run to loosen up. And this was more, I felt really good the day after. And then I was waiting for that second day of that delayed onset muscle soreness. And it really didn't occur. It was very minimal. And when I did go for that little run, it seemed to dissipate. It seemed to help move that out of my body pretty quickly.
Okay.
And very, very different than I had ever experienced before.
And is this a liquid format? Is it a pill format? How are you?
The original product was a liquid.
Okay.
You drink a couple ounces a day, typically 2 ounces and 2 ounces, although I took some additional before the event. It now also comes as a concentrated gel that people apply to the skin for skin cells, but it also gets into the underlying joints. So a knee joint, a back issue. And then I also, based on my history with digestive issues, I also rub it onto my abdomen because I want to topically apply it right to the tissue where I want to make sure that issue, that damage from years ago doesn't affect me, say, in 10, 20 years with a bigger issue.
Okay, excellent. And I'm assuming that there's no way to overdose on this. Can your body have too much of it?
Right. So it's completely natural. It's already something that's in us. It's actually made out of something very simple called salt and water. So you can't overdose on it. You can't be allergic to it. It doesn't interfere with the body, with what the body does. It actually just amplifies the clarity of what the body sees in the body. So it sees where the damage is. It activates the body's ability to protect itself and the ability to repair itself. So you really can't overdose on it. The only effect is that it is made out of salt and water that is converted into this signaling. So there's very little sodium content into it, even though it's made out of this saline solution. So the only drawback or concern with drinking a lot of this would be someone who's on a sodium restricted diet.
Okay. All right. So you can go back, you were talking about your parents, that you started giving it to your parents.
Right. So I quickly realized this is not just an athletic product or a physical recovery product. This is a health product. And I decided that I needed to get this to my parents. So I just started shipping them this product. And it was months or even a year later where they were questioning, well, how much is this costing you? And my original thought was, I don't care. Because we have some history in our family of some issues in health. And I just, the more and more I read about it and the more testimonials that I heard, I realized that not only is this something that can help people with health issues or quality of life issues, but this is also a proactive way to help the body keep in front of the oxidative stress, other challenges that we may have. And, we may never know what we prevent by eating a healthy diet or supplementing in this way or walking around the block every day. So they started to have some benefits in terms of cardiac health, blood lipid health, and also cognition. And also just my dad is now he's hiking mountains in New Hampshire. He's playing golf a couple times a week, carrying his own bag on a hilly course. He is, very active, and, anything I can do to keep my parents moving and healthy, I'll do whatever I can. They're in their little over mid 70s right now, and they're doing great. They're absolutely doing great. So that was a big boost for me to see, continued benefits for me in my running and my health, but their experiences, and then also the numerous other testimonials across, a whole range of different, potential benefits.
Has there been anything, especially with the aging population, with dementia or clearer thoughts or memory? Are there any studies on that?
No specific studies. One of the challenges to getting the message out related to this technology is that even though the technology was a pre-pharma technology, it was being tested against a lot of named conditions, the technology was maintained by a founder, and he decided to bring it to market as a supplement.
Okay.
So that prevents us from, or prevents them from publicizing any of that previous research, and it prevents them from doing research on any kind of named condition.
Right, understood. Yeah.
So we can talk about symptoms, we can talk about body systems, and one of the main pieces of research we had last year was some research based on genetics. So we can talk about genetic pathways, but specifics related to specific ailments, we can't really test for that or divulge, any previous testing for that. And there's a whole story, a backstory as to how this came to market and why it came to market the way it did. Relative to the FDA, and it's really a natural product. It's already in us. It's completely non-toxic. It doesn't have the risk associated with a drug, which is in many cases something that is synthetic or attempts to change the way the body works. This is really just amplifying the volume or the clarity within the body. So a pretty amazing programming can go to work and keep us healthy. The body needs what it needs, but it needs a bunch of balance points, and this is one of those that it needs.
Excellent.
So all of those experiences, both mine, my parents, a number of other experiences for me, and the testimonies I heard really put me in a position where I realized that I had a new purpose. The medications in my 20s really caused a lot of problems for me, and unfortunately, I feel as though I missed a lot of time in my 20s. And so this was an additional way that I could share some information that could help people avoid what happened to me. Mm-hmm. And I'll do anything I can to help people simply understand that there's an option here and that it has a potential to help people. I really can't say how it will affect any one person. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different balance point. They have different experiences and stress points in them from years and experiences that you really can't predict how the body's going to react. But if the concept of helping your body be clearer about what is right and what is wrong makes sense to you, and you want to try to help your body in a natural way, then this has a potential to help. And around the same time that I was introduced to all of this concept from Chinese philosophy came along that says that when you find something in life that helps you, it is your duty to pass it along. It's not just an, oh, by the way, it is an active duty to open your mouth and share with others things that can help them. And so my purpose now is really just to put myself out into the world, which this has greatly helped me do, and look for opportunities to provide a little bit of information and guide people on how this may be able to help them. So it's really the simplest approach. It's true in life, it's true in business, it's true in relationships, and I'll suggest it's true at health at the most basic cellular level, in that, when you know what you're dealing with, you can deal with anything, is really the first quote that I love. And then the second concept that I love is the worst problem you can have in life or business or relationships or health is the one you don't know you have. And this approach focuses on that area in just simply helping the body understand where it's at. And this applies to every cell in the body. So it's a heart cell, it's an eye cell, it's a skin cell, a knee cell, a digestive cell, a brain cell, as you mentioned. It's even the cells of a pet or an animal. The same underlying physiology exists in them as us. And the great thing about their testimonials is that they don't have a placebo effect. They don't understand this is necessarily going to help them.
Right.
So when they go from laying around all day to jumping around like a puppy, there's something physically there that happened that helped them. So that is a big piece as well. And there's loads of testimonials in that area.
Okay.
So the question then becomes, well, why do we benefit? Why do we need to supplement this area? And as I said, it's already in us. It's just depleted or out of balance because we age, and everybody ages, or we're stressed, and everybody is not only stressed, but increasingly stressed because of environment or dietary, or even just the electronic world in that, everything's coming at us, and it's harder and harder to keep ourselves in a more, or I should say, under less stress. And as I mentioned, it's a liquid. It's ingested a few ounces a day. You can also spray it or inhale it. There's also people who drop it into their eyes and their ears. And it also comes as a topical that, as I said, gets onto the skin for skin cells, but also to underlying tissue and joint and so forth. And again, mentioning that it's a supplement. So it's not a drug, and it's natural and it's native to the body.
Excellent. So I read some studies on it when you first joined our group, so I could learn a little bit, and you had forwarded some genetic studies that I thought were pretty impressive to see. I know some people that are using the product, which have had really nice results, and that all sounds great. I purchased it as well. The interesting thing you said was the muscle, and my daughter yesterday was at the doctor that she pulled her lumbar muscle, and I was like, I'm giving her arnica, but I was like, oh, guess what she's going to have when she gets home from school today? We'll kind of throw that on that.
Right. So in that scenario, typically if we can get the topical gel onto an area of discomfort 3 times in 5 minutes, basically saturating that area, and within 5 or 10 minutes after that, the majority of people, say 9 out of 10, will notice some benefit. Not to suggest that it went from an absolute excruciating discomfort level of 10 to a 0 and it never came back, but that it was sort of a 7 and it was kind of hard to breathe. And now it's a 4 and I can take a little bit bigger breath. So it's moving in the right direction. And it took a while for that discomfort to get in there. So it'll take a while for the body to flush the inflammation, go to work on the damage, and release that discomfort.
Yeah, that's terrific. So when I was reading about the studies, whenever I'm looking at a new product, I read the positive and the negative because I'd like to see. So I just wanted to address one of the negatives I read that you're probably very aware of is that it's just salt and water, which is exactly what you said. So what makes this product different and really able to hone in on that cellular repair when it's salt and water?
Right. So it starts as salt and water saline solution, which is the same makeup of the internal liquid in every one of your cells. So starting with the same raw materials as your cells do to make these when they make energy. So every cell makes energy. When it does that, it basically it spawns off these messengers or this communication as a byproduct of that. And initially, the scientists thought these were just byproducts. They were just waste. And then they realized that the balance of these is very important to the homeostasis or the balance of a cell, and that affects essentially the entire physiology of the cell and how it talks to others. So it's made out of the same thing that your cells make it out of, and it goes through a 3.5-day process and over 35 patents to essentially take that salt and water and break it up from a chemistry perspective, and then put it back together into a balanced mixture of these messengers. And so there are some negative things out there that say, oh, it's just expensive salt water. If you look closely into where some of those reviews come from, they bash everything that doesn't have to do with a pill.
Right.
So I don't have to look too far to understand where that's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from a scientific perspective, there's a third-party company called BioAgilytix that has verified scientifically that there is, in fact, this cell signaling, the technical term is called Redox cell signaling, in this product. And they test every batch of this product, and they put their seal, their emblem, right on the bottle of this product and the tube of this product to validate that they have verified that, yes, this is not just salt water. So that's number one. Number two is that in the genetics research study they did last year, they put X number of people onto this resource. They had them drink it for 8 weeks, and they tested their genetic expression. And over that 8 weeks, their genetic expression improved significantly from 20 to 31% in 5 key areas of health. And then they took the people off the product for 8 weeks, and their genetic expression went back to what it was in the beginning.
That's impressive.
So, first of all, salt water doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, this placebo group used the saline solution the product is made out of in the production facility as what they're ingesting. So they didn't have any benefits. So the difference between people ingesting the placebo saline solution and the 3.5-day process, 35 patent cell signaling mixture was night and day in terms of the body's genetic expression.
That's impressive. So oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that was an excellent test from a number of perspectives. The main perspective I love to say is I can just say, hey, salt water doesn't do this.
Yeah.
Here's apples and oranges.
Exactly.
Here's X number of people had this benefit, and here's X number of people had nothing. And this is before and after the process, right? They actually sent the saline solution and they sent the product to the test.
Excellent.
So something happened in the production facility that caused people's genetics to improve significantly in 5 key areas of health. I'll suggest it's 3.5 days and 35 patents, but people can draw their own conclusions.
I like the result that it came back when they were taken back off of it. You know,
right. So
I think that is what's
right.
showing the significance.
Yeah, their genetic expression went back to
right.
what it was before,
right.
which, you know, if you look at genetic expression, that's really all about what's your environment.
Exactly.
So they went back to their normal environment where they didn't have the ability for clear communication in their body. And so their genetics sort of went back to a baseline.
Mm-hmm.
And so people will then sometimes ask, well, do I have to take this for the rest of my life? And my suggestion is, well, proactively, it sounds like a good idea to me, but this test shows that your genetics can be benefited by balancing your body in this way. And there's obviously something in your environment that's causing something else to occur. So would it be an insurance policy to do this, perhaps while you figure out what's in your environment? Or
right.
just consider that all of our environments are suppressing our genetics because of environment, diet, things in our water, electromagnetics, all kinds of things that are causing this kind of problem.
We have a question. So for those of you that are listening to us later, these are done and members are allowed to join into these interviews. So we have some questions. One, I'm going to go back and read them through, but one just came through that said, how do we measure genetic expression?
There's actually a very complicated way for scientists to look at the status of the DNA structures in our cells. And I don't understand it completely, other than it uses a very intricate process to actually see how well our genetics can be expressed in a given environment. And there's a summary of the genetics test. There's what I would call a little bit more detailed description, and then there is the actual test report from the test lab, Torit Labs, which is one of the main genetics testing labs in the country. So there's various levels of information on that test and how they did it. And it's all based on the statistics of what they see within the DNA in a given environment. So it's
and they can probably measure what's turned on and turned off at certain points.
Right. They can look to see how the DNA is unfolding and what that is before and after.
Okay. I have a couple other questions if you're good.
Sure, let's go.
It says, does the cream help with keratosis? I don't know what that is.
Keratosis is a medical term. It's a particular named condition. So typically we don't speak in terms of those. I've seen the gel help with many different health conditions, as well as things like cuts and burns and scars, and as well as skin issues related to stress and aging, so skin quality. So I'd be happy to take a look into the specific symptoms of that particular issue and identify whether there are testimonials related to that. Oftentimes people will say, will it help for this? Or will it help for that? And they may name a medical condition. I say, well, we don't typically talk in those terms, but let me ask you a question. Does the problem that you're describing there or naming there, does that have to do with damaged cells that are having trouble repairing or replacing themselves? And typically that's always yes. Yes, there are other things the cells need. They need a certain set of nutrients. They need a certain alkaline pH balance. They need a lot of different things. But in a lot of cases, it can simply be a communication issue that when you replenish that, the body will activate its repair as it's designed so that it can go to work on that particular issue.
Excellent. And our last question is, wondering if David has done any work with sharing his experience with organized sports for teens?
Mm-hmm. Good question. Yes. So there was my experiences and experiences with other athletes, which were more qualitative, I would say. There was one study that was done on athletics that was more quantitative. And they did a study with athletes, which showed some significant benefits. They also did a very interesting study with mice. And they found that mice on a treadmill run 29% longer on ASEA versus off. And so the question is, well, mice just don't run 29% longer for nothing. And they also found that the body spares glycogen or sugar fuel when you drink ASEA as well. Now, in terms of sharing it with athletes, we share some of those data points, and we also share lots of testimonials. As far as I think the question was related to younger athletes, certainly I have shared it with a number of athletes that have been injured or in discomfort in some way. Essentially, they're stressing their body in a way that their body can't keep up with that. Things like shin splints, knee problems, lower back, which we're seeing more and more in younger people. They get benefit from the topical version, kind of like you suggested with your daughter and the issue that she has, putting it on 3 times in 5 minutes. So people are having benefit across all age groups in terms of that. As far as the endurance and recovery benefits, there have been a number of people that I've worked with and others have worked with on that they've received benefits. Typically, it's an older population that notices more of a benefit. The math or the science says that after age 12, we lose about 10% of our body's ability to make its own messaging every decade. So I'm 52. I only have about 40 to 50% of what I had when I was 7. Well, I can look at a 7-year-old and go, they have loads of energy. They recover very quickly. They may get banged up, and the next day they're back at it again. Whereas my baseline suggests that takes longer for me, even though in this particular case, I can do something to help my body be clearer about how to go about that and sort of restore that signaling that I had when I was younger.
Excellent. Thank you for answering those. If anyone else has any questions, you can put that in the chat box as well as we can answer. David, no doubt how passionate you are about ASEA and the product. You are part of the global expansion team. Can you tell us how people can get the product or get in touch with you if they want information?
Sure. So my role on the team, global expansion team, it's now in 31 countries and growing. I really have two roles. One is to guide people through some information, give them a summary or an analogy, some science, a testimonial, help them through usage or the protocol, or perhaps even give them a personal experience using a sample of the product. And my goal is to do that professionally and respectfully. I help them understand what the option is, what the information is, and then I allow them to make the right decision for them. My second role is to help people do what I do, people who feel strongly about sharing important information, natural resources. It's a simple process. And again, to teach people to do this professionally. People come to this from a purpose related to their personal experience, or they may also be an entrepreneur that see an exclusive business opportunity based on exclusive technology, or they may be a practitioner and they see that this complements an existing modality. It essentially amplifies whatever other modality or whatever other service they're providing. So those are really my roles. Now, to get in touch with me, the best way is by phone, 908-930-8878. That's also a cell phone, so text is great. And email is Stretanski, Stretanski @gmail.com. Those are the two best ways to get a hold of me, and I can put you in touch with some information, and you can learn for yourself, and we'll take it from there depending upon what you decide to do.
Excellent, thank you. One other question just came to me as you were saying that. Do doctors or medical facilities or pharmacies distribute this, or is it really a one-on-one experience with the rep? So
it's really a direct-to-market opportunity for people to get the product. It's distributed directly from the company, so the company takes care of all that heavy lifting and accounting and so forth. There are many medical professionals who do recommend this in their practices. Some of them do stock product, particularly samples. And so there is an opportunity for professionals to use it that way. However, they quickly find that the best way to do that is to utilize the company's resources to do the delivery mechanism and concentrate on helping patients and sharing the message. People who tend to see this are chiropractors, energy workers, including acupuncturists, nutritionists who see the balance between this and nutrition, body workers or personal trainers who have people who are trying to recover well, and any kind of natural doctor, a homeopath, naturopath, osteopaths who look for natural ways to help the body do what it's designed to do. It not only helps their clients, but it also can help their business grow and create resources that allow them to share with more people, or maybe take some time off, which is not always the case with people trying to build and maintain businesses.
Excellent, a good point. And I would also think maybe gyms or sports centers, wellness centers where people are working out, like a bar center, might be a good place too, because everyone's recovering.
Yes, typically there's a champion in that area that has an experience and says, personal trainer, or I was just at a networking meeting this morning with someone who is a partner in a martial arts gym, and they're always getting banged up. And she asked me, is there a way I can get some samples into the gym? Let's get your name on them and do that. So I was very grateful that she was being a connector in that way for me to help get the message out. My secondary role to help people do what I do is really how I can affect most people. If I'm working with people one-on-one, yes, I can help a lot of people, but that's really math in terms of addition. But if I can engage more and more people to want to share this, then it becomes more of a multiplier effect. And I have a very big goal to affect a very large number of people in terms of creating a legacy, but I can't possibly talk to all those people and make that happen. So that's the value of the business model And the marketing approach is to help this message get out to as many people face to face and indirectly affect a lot of people. And when someone comes up to you and they've never met you and they say, well, you told someone and they told someone and they told me, and now my life or my physical mobility or my parents' life has dramatically changed. You know, sometimes I can sit back in my chair and go, you know what, I don't need to eat lunch today. I'm good. I'm all full. Mm-hmm. And so that's really what I'm going for. I'm going for a big network that can affect the lives of a lot of people through something that I completely believe in. And as you can tell, my history shows why I feel so strongly about helping people avoid the things that may help us symptomatically in the short run, but really don't fix the issue at hand.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I don't know, do you have any last words before we end the interview?
I would just close with just noting what are the kind of people who are a great referral for me? Like, what are the reasons people take a look at this? And in summary, people, they have a health issue or a quality of life issue in some way, including a physical discomfort. 2 is they know someone who has an issue, including a pet. 3 would be they have a skin repair issue or skin condition of some type, including simply they just want to look better. They're feeling the effects of aging, whether that's sun or stress or age or whatever it may be. 4 is they're an active person or they're an athlete and they have a recovery or performance concern of some type. And then 5th is they take a proactive approach to health. As I mentioned before, you know, may we never know what we prevent, because a lot of times we make a change in life and we were right on the edge of having an issue and we made a change and that helped us avoid that. And then number 6 is that people are looking for a business opportunity, specifically in health where they feel strongly and where they recognize that there's an exclusive technology that helps people in a way that nothing else does. And they see that as a unique opportunity to not only benefit themselves, but also change a lot of lives by getting those testimonials and replicating themselves to keep the message flowing. As I said, it's already it's in the company's officially in 31 countries, but it's already getting into pretty much every country of the world right now, just by word of mouth. And so it's growing quickly. And I predict that redox signaling or cell signaling will be as household of a term in a few years as antioxidants is today. And 20 or 30 years ago, no one knew what an antioxidant was. Excellent. And it came out because people started sharing this concept of antioxidants and what we can do to help avoid that oxidative stress that's in us. So, so those are the areas where people are taking a good look at this, and it's just it's a wonderful opportunity to, as we say, there's nothing better than making a living while making a difference. And I'll leave it at that.
And give your contact information one more time quickly.
Sure. David Stretanski, cell or text 908-930-8878. And email is dstretansky, DSTRETANSKI @gmail.com.
All right. And thank you so much, David, for coming in today. Or you didn't actually drive. So thank you for joining us today here and with our member spotlight. And hopefully anyone out there who has questions or you're seeing this later in replay, please feel that you can reach out. You can write comments below and they are forwarded to David and he will be able to answer all of that, or you can reach him at his contact information. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. And we will catch you next week on the member spotlight. Thank you.